countdown. It looks like that we are recording.
Awesome.
Alex, it's so good, really, so good to have you here. I've
Pleasure.
been well since last week because we only met or met last week after this suggestion from Simon Freeman from Like the Wind. And I was super looking forward to have this conversation with you. And I would love to start here, and I'm pretty sure that you will recognize what I'm about to read. Community has been co-opted in the world of running, and we are taking it back. For over a decade, the running charity has built community where others only sell it. Not curated, not performative, not for brand affinity or free stuff. We work with young people society. We work with young people society sidelines. Those labeled hard to reach, too complex, not ready. But we see them, we run with them, we build with them. They often arrive quiet, not because they have nothing to say, but because no one's earned the right to hear it yet. They leave with something most campaigns can manufacture: trust, belonging, and community that lasts. While others chase a vibe, we are building foundations in parks, on the road, in hostels, secure units, and safe houses. Constructed by coaches with lived experience and young people who have been pushed out, passed over, and left behind, yet still choose to engage, connect, and rebuild on their own terms. Week in, week out, in the rain, in crisis, in joy, in grief, in celebration. You want to talk about community? This is community. Raw, radical, and real. We are not asking for permission to be here. We have been here. And our young people have set the pace, the direction, and the industry has followed. We don't throw around the word community lightly. We build it, we defend it, we live it. This is running. This is mental health. This is community done right. This is the running charity. Um, that piece you wrote, man, it hit me like applause because it's sharp, it's emotional, and it's super honest. So I would like to start our conversation here. Where where were you mentally and emotionally when you wrote this?
uh, Mentally and emotionally, where was I? Well, physically, I was in my living room. I was looking. It was Mental Health Week in the UK, um, and I get frustrated. Although these kind of days of activations or weeks of activation are really critical to start conversation and bring up conversation, I feel the conversations are quite bland and quite safe. Um, and actually not really ever getting to the hub of it. Like, for example, during World Mental Health Week, everyone talks about actually we need to talk about conversations about mental health. And that, of course, is valuable. You want to normalize, you don't want to stigmatize mental health. It should be something that's open and honest. Um, but actually, the real conversation is why isn't it being funded? Why is it a lottery for people to gain access to mental health care? The real challenging questions don't get asked. And I feel actually what people do is play it safe, and not necessarily us, but actually charities as a whole, brands as a whole. It's kind of talking about change, but actually not demanding change. And when we talk about community, something that actually has historical legs to it, has political legs to it, and isn't just something that is focused on just trying to talk about something for a week,
So,
or not even talk about something for a week, but actually meaningfully do something about it purposefully throughout your life.
so this leads me to this like a side B of the question. Like, what with this text? What were you? responding to or maybe reclaiming?
I think, listen, I think there's a real, as a charity, like just to give you some kind of context of who we are as a charity. So, running charity has been going for around, well, 12 years since our first ever program. Um, we formed off the back of the London 2012 Olympics. Um, I was delivering, well, my role was a men's and sports worker at a homelessness day centre. Um, so it, it's something that we've tried to kind of, how have we created something that actually is really meaningful and really impactful? And that has never really been about the superficial. It's been about making the tougher decisions and about how you actually have to make the sacrifices and live what you want to create rather than necessarily just state it. And I think for me, just often it's stated as a throwaway things, words like community, words like impact, is is spoken very untangibly and very um, uninformed.
Mm.
And I think it's about making sure that actually to try and take it back, you have to show actually there's a different way. And I think for the last 12 years, the running charity, uh, one of the first of its kind, has struggled to survive as an organisation because when we first started, we were very much the antithesis of what was out there from both we traditionally started working with young people that were experiencing homelessness, and sport wasn't really seen as something for people going through really complex things. Running wasn't seen as something for people that were dealing with housing, dealing with employment, dealing with crime, dealing with all these different issues. Oh, it's just a nice add-on. And for me, actually, it, how could we bring that into being an integral foundation of someone's life that enables things to hang off, right? So for me, it's about actually addressing that part of the sector that really wasn't valuing sport. And then from the sports perspective, actually, everything was about how do we just get someone just to turn up once, or how do we just, you know, numbers, numbers, numbers. And actually, where's the quality of the mind shift of actually how, you know, running and sports isn't necessarily about how many people turn up in an event. It's about how the act of moving is transformative to people's lives. And I think from both sides of the equation, people don't really come at it from the right perspective.
Do you like let's go looking back to the like let's look back 12 years.
Mhm.
Can you take me on, or do you remember a moment or something early in the journey of building the running charity that led you to think about, yes, this is exactly why we are doing this?
Yeah, I think like when we started it, I wanted to scratch an itch essentially. Like I was working in a day centre, really amazing, and they're an incredible organisation that do amazing work. But my sports work, I felt was only scratching the surface of where it could be. And we put together a program with 12 young people at the time. They were either rough sleeping in night shelters, probably doing things that that wasn't conducive to their future development. Let's just put it diplomatically. Um, and within 6 months of working with this cohort, they're all housed, all employed, all doing the things that, society asks of us. But what I felt was the most beautiful thing about it was they could just walk into a room and own it. The heads weren't down, they were up. They were managing problems before they became crisis. They knew a sense of purpose, and when they wanted something, they could ask for it and not feel like they didn't deserve it. Right? There was actually, I need this, and this is what your duty is to provide for it, and I'm going to work for that. But this is your responsibility to this equation. So I scratched that itch. It was great. Like it was like, okay, I've done that. I'm going to continue to do this in my evenings. I never wanted or had any ambition to start a charity. Um, there's too many charities that do, in my opinion, do the same thing, or there's someone sees something that someone else is doing, going, "Oh, good, we'll replicate that," rather than collaborating. And so I had no, although I had no ambition to start something. It was like, oh, if I can do it within my existing role, brilliant. Um, and then a couple of things kind of transformed it. Really, we were getting requests to expand, which I was resisting. I didn't really want to expand or do that. Um, and the tipping point for me was there was nothing like us. I couldn't push it on, or I couldn't combine with something to make what we were doing or come to life. So that was one of the things where we go, okay, there is space for an organization like us to exist rather than just replicate what's already going on. Um, but the big turning point for me was a young person in our program. And you hear the words life changing, transformative, life saving a lot when you work in these spaces, right? And the big thing for me, this individual joined our program. So they were about 8 stone. They were substance misuse, living in a tent, and couldn't run a lap uh, of our courtyard where we were doing the training. Right, and by the time he left us, he was 13 stone, a personal trainer, had run a marathon, um, was looking to do ultra marathons, was housed, and it was just like actually, when you work, you can become a little bit kind of cynical, right? But that ignited it kicked the cynical side out of me a little bit. That individual, um, and it's someone I still hold very dear to me now. Um, and that was the turning point where I felt actually this isn't something that is a way for me to progress my career. This isn't something that I want to do for myself. It was something that actually, wow, this is. I think I have a responsibility with the people around me to see if we can make this work. And it wasn't just let's just do this. Like, you know, my partner has been and is still is integral to this organization. It wouldn't exist without her. When we first had our baby, we moved into my partner's families so we could survive on one, a cash flow of about 2 months to make it work. We just had our first kid. She was writing to try and get shoes for us from different sources so we could make sure young people had safe and effective equipment. So we went all in as not just as an individual me, but my immediate people around me, my partner, but then actually my family and around us, not sacrificed, but um, believed in it, and we worked to make it a reality. Um, and me and a member of that first program were the first people to go full time with it. So Claude, who runs our London programs, is our London manager now. He was a young person on that first ever pilot. Um, out of the 10 people that work for us, 9 of us have got direct lived experience of what our young people face. So it's not just um, oh, I'd like to do this. It's deeply intrinsically built into us to do this. Um, and it's a way of life rather than a career, I would say.
Mm. You wrote on this amazing LinkedIn post that at running the running charity, we don't throw around the word community lightly. Like
Mhm.
and this line itself says a lot. So let's go there. Uh, why why do you think you mentioned earlier that when some brands talk about purpose and community, it's very shallow. It's really they are just working it on the surface. So personally, why do you think that so many brands or organizations do throw the word community around so, I don't know,
Yeah.
casually?
No, so so I have to caveat it as an amount, right? So there are people that work within brands, right? I never doubt their intentions to want to do good and transform. So from when I say shallow, that's never a or it's superficial. That's never from an individual perspective, right? But what I worry about considerably is the commoditization of community, right? When I hear community, I think of growing up in a single parent family, living in poverty, and having my sister look after me, my mum's friends, the people around me that made sure we didn't fall, right? That's community to me. But systemically, from a kind of corporate perspective, too many, I think, hear the word community and what they hear in their head is commodity, or they hear the word community and they hear audience. And that's not what community is. And I think that there needs to be a very different separation of what actually community is from a societal and political point of view to what community is from a sales point of view. And these are different things.
No,
And I
no.
think they need to be respected.
Yeah, like we I believe that we have all seen it. For example, a brand or brands trying to quote unquote manufacture trust and belonging and community through vibes or merchandising or perks, but somehow they are, just like you're saying, they are missing the foundation. So imagine that you are on a stage as the co-founder of the running charity and you have many brands, and I'm not talking about like running brands, but
Mm.
let's go to sports and wellness and adventure and outdoor. What would you tell them? Like, what do you think that brands or marketing teams miss when they say they want to build community? You can close
So I
your
think
eyes.
I think what's unsaid is more important. I never doubt people's. I think you've got to look at why you're doing it and the nature of why you're doing it. You know, is it to sell a product, or is it for brand affinity, or is it because you strongly believe wholeheartedly in community? And those things, listen, I'm not I'm not a person to say that's good practice, that's bad practice, this is a good one, this is a bad one, because it's often felt in the heart, right? And it's what's not said is where it's genuine or not. And then I think you see that resonate. I think the ones that are successful largely um, stick, right? So is it done in an appropriate way? Do we have a duty of care? Do we care about the people that are actually attending this community? And it's not necessarily just about a photograph, right? So it's really about, I think, for me, ensuring that people's motivations are right, and that's very difficult to tell when it's attached to sales. And I think that's why you see the incredible work of so many kind of run crews, right? So they've been formed out of community, and they've been formed out of like someone's like heart, right? They didn't need to do that, especially some of the old ones. You look at people like Charlie Dark and Run Dem Crew, like it's incredible that journey. And was it ever, you know, when that was created, there was no way that was done because of the social media to build a brand or build their own, because no one cared. Like, running is such a different sport now than it was 12 years ago, right? It's one of the biggest sports now. It's considered cool. It really wasn't 10, 12 years ago when that crew came into existence and we came into existence. Like lots of sports organisations, like sports charities and things like that, use the sport as the hook, right? Like, listen, you drop a football, people swarm around it, right? We said we were going to take a group of young people running. The young people looked at us almost offended. And we still get that now to some extent, right? Because it's not that. It, it, it's I feel it's become co-opted now because it's so commercial, it's so profitable. You can build careers out of it, right? And therein lies needs the ability to people to self-check and self-regulate why they're going into it, right? And are they part of the community and building something that's bigger than them and collaborating, or are they looking to do something that's more self-focused? And I think people see through that.
Mm.
But like that's people might attend a parkrun. There's a reason why it's so popular, right? First of all, its principles are right. It's free. They're not looking to make a profit out of people to attend. People will attend, and it's like you attend on your terms. You can do it really, really fast if you want, or you can walk it, right? It's no one left behind. It's that attitude of community that really brings through. Like the previous big half, the London Marathon event, they do a half marathon called the Big Half. We had the fastest non-professional male, and we had the slowest non-professional male, right? So in our community, there is a space for everyone. On average, our young people have 8 complex needs and 7 mental health issues, right? There is a million reasons why they should not be taking up running, right? But they do, and they turn up, and we're there for them on their terms. We don't meet them from where we want them. We don't tell them what success looks like. We ask them, what is success, and how can we help you get to that place where you want to be? And I think that's the heart of community. Is it's not purpose driven from your own selfish gains. It's driven from a wider societal responsibility that we should all feed into, and that can be, you know, social security systems, free healthcare, all the way down to a small running club that has 3 people turning up each week. If you're doing it genuinely and you're doing it for the right reasons, then I take my hat off to you. You know, the people that are not doing it genuine, as soon as trends change, as soon as they feel they might be able to get something elsewhere, they'll move on to the next thing, and you don't have to really concern yourself about that.
That's why you are here for already 12 years. So that says a lot. Um, one of the most one of the most powerful lines in your piece was, you said something like, they often arrive quiet, uh, not because they have nothing to say, but because no one's earned the right to hear it yet, something like this. Um, I don't think I've ever heard that idea framed so clearly. Like, but I would love to hear from you. Like, you wrote this. What does it mean to earn the right to hear someone's story? Like, what I mean by this question is, how do you build that kind of trust that you earn the right to hear someone's story?
Well, in terms of writing it, my partner helped with me. I'm dyslexic and have ADHD, so it's beautifully written,
you
largely
can
because my
you can
partner has
call
played
her.
a
You
role
can
as
call
well.
her for the
So,
conversation.
so I'm not. I can't. The heart's me, but she helps me with a lot of my writing. So I'm very lucky in that perspective. But in terms of earning the right, it's showing up for people without an ulterior motive. It's turning up patiently. One thing we talk about internally, like our young people cancel. Like I said, they have a million reasons not to show up to a session. One of our coaches might trek across London, and we turn up to run with that young person, and they don't show up. They don't even drop us a message, right? And we'll wait there, right? And we might not hear from them, but what we'll do next week is we'll show up at the same time and we'll be there, right? And we'll continue doing that until they show up, or until they say, I don't want to do it, right? And we show up for young people when even they're not ready to meet us. And I think so much um, is is so much is about quick wins, and we've never been an organisation about quick wins. In fact, we came out of and we came into existence because we weren't about quick wins. And it's about showing up for people when they need us most, and understanding that we're in a position of privilege, and we are in a place in our lives where we can show up for people more than they can sometimes show up for themselves. And when we show up when they're not ready for it, or they perceive to have let us down, which they haven't, we build that trust, right? And we're then able to build that foundation of then moving with them. And I think running is also a perfect sport for building trust with people, right? Because first of all, you know, so much of kind of supporting people in a professional sense is sitting opposite them and telling them, tell me your story, tell me everything about you, then I'll help you, because then I'll understand it. Rather than just going, let's run, and we can run in silence if you want. We're going to be side by side. And you begin to have those conversations naturally, and the power dynamic shifts. Listen, like I said, we had, one of the fastest runners at the big half. He's an elite runner. If he runs with me, who's a 42-year-old, overweight and slow, right, and carrying so many injuries, right, he will see the power dynamic shift. I'm no longer the person that's empowered, telling them how to guide their life. Actually, he's guiding me, right? He's shaping my running journey, and he's encouraging me. He sees I've gone red in the face and he's barely broken a sweat. And he's like, don't worry, we'll slow down here, right? Breathe. And he's advising me. And that sharing of information becomes far more level and non-hierarchical, that trust forms more naturally.
So, and sorry to interrupt, because
Yeah.
you touched about the fact that looking to other sports and
Yeah.
focusing on running, what I believe is that with the running charity, with running, it's more, again, it's more than just this run crew. It's more than a movement.
Mhm.
And what does running actually unlock in your work with young people? Like, why do you think that does it work?
I think, my background beforehand in terms of sports coaching was coaching football. Right. So that was my kind of sport before running. Right. And it's you can be rewarded quite quickly in team sports. Right. Well, and when we founded this organization, my co-founder was the runner. Right? I wasn't the runner. I was the reluctant runner. Right. I was the skeptical one. And when you start running, it's bloody horrific. It can be. The experience can be really tough. Right. You stop for a little bit. It's tough again. Right? It's really annoying, right? Whereas some of those kind of, I find with other sports, is you build up a foundation of technique, and you can kind of pick it up, and you can just stand still and pass the ball. I haven't played football now in like 10 years. Put me on a football pitch, I reckon I could do all right still, right? You make sure if I don't run for 10 years, it's gonna
Good luck.
it's gonna be difficult. So I think there's an element of the sport that, because it's not initially rewarding, that it's difficult. I think there's so many transferable things about life. It's about process and commitment and putting the hours in. And really, for so many young people to navigate complex systems like housing, like employment, like legal, like the asylum processes, the system is not there to work for you, right? Often it's underfunded, it's understaffed. There's Sometimes it's built that way on purpose, not to serve you. If you come from different socioeconomic groups, whether you are neurodiverse, whether you are from Black and global majority communities, like, the systems are not necessarily made for you, right? So you can stop. going into those systems, right? And to actually, put it bluntly, I'm not engaging in your bloody system anymore, right? And that doesn't mean we don't lead the reform or the revolution of those systems, but we need young people to be able to move forward is to commit to that process, right? And what running teaches you is process and commitment, and it doesn't go to plan, and it's difficult, and you have to keep coming back to it. One of our young people summed it up really well. He said, like, you know what? In life, I'm still hitting walls, right? But running has taught me that I'm going to hit walls, and I either need to run through it or around it, right? And that commitment to process. If our young people run 5 times, they run 5Ks, they're either going to find it easier or they're going to be faster, right? That's normally the two options that you get. With more complex social structures, you could attend 5 times and you could be further back, right? And it's about reconnecting people with that process for me. And how do we make tangible steps to move you in the direction what you want to go into, not what I want you to go
Yeah.
into? Yeah. So I think the beauty of running is it connects you back to process, and it connects you back to actually, I'm putting one foot in front of the other, and it's not going to go to plan. And it's sometimes going to be difficult. It's sometimes going to be lonely, but sometimes it's going to be joyful. And sometimes it's going to give me goosebumps all over, and I'm thinking it's going to be the most amazing thing. And what's not more a metaphor for life than that? And I think that's what I think running really brings to you. And also, you can do it on your own. Right? You don't need someone to do it, and no one carries you.
Yeah.
If I run a marathon, right, I've earned that marathon, even if I've only done like 5 training runs for it. I'm going to earn it because it's going to be awful when I do it, right? Or if I've done all my preparation, I've earned it because I've done all my preparation and I've got to run down. I'm ready and I'm ready to go for it. So it teaches you about preparation process, that sometimes it's going to be difficult. That's what I love about running now. I'm not great at it still. I've done marathons, but I'm still slow. I still plod along, and
That's
it's one
okay.
foot in front of the other, and I judge myself by my own standards and how I feel after a run, not how fast I've gone after a run.
Yeah.
And but someone else can say it's actually, for me, it's about how fast I go. That's what I judge my success on, and that's like, more power to you. That's how you judge it. Brilliant.
Looking back again, 12 years, like when you were starting building the running charity, was there like what did people not understand about what we what you were trying to do?
Well, we were very fortunate that runners did understand it, right? So, coming from a non-running place when we first started it with my co-founder James knew the running community, right? James knew it was a supportive community. So I didn't, so runners got it, because I think every runner knows when they've how they've lent on it during their dark times, and how it's got them out of holes, and how it's enabled them to process and to think and to really understand what they're going through and help them get out of it, because it's that space for you to think. Um, so we're very fortunate there was a lot of people that did get it, right? But where we find the most obstacles is the wider section. So, like, you know, people that fund our coaches, you know, people will tell me now, I hate running. Like, and no one, it's very rare that, someone will come up to you and say they hate what you do. But people feel that they can do that, right? And have that space to do it. So I think what we faced as an organization is two things. I was always about the quality of the work, not about the numbers in the work. And the sport, I felt that the sports and brands didn't like that, right? What they liked was pictures of 100 people, right? That's changed, thankfully. I think we've had the hero story, we've gone through that a little bit, right? So I think the brands didn't really fully get how impactful being there for one person is, and how more important that is over a consistency of period to being there for an hour for 100 people, right? So I think there was confusion there, and I think from a kind of more, kind of like, let's say charity, like people that are working in like homelessness services, mental health services, um, uh, prisons, all these places where we operate now, right? They didn't get running, and they didn't normally didn't like running, and traditionally, a lot of that sector isn't necessarily an overly sporty sector. It's very deep, hard, challenging work that's both emotionally taxing, and so something light like running, it's almost seen as like, go, what, this is not serious. So from both perspectives, we were too raw for corporates and businesses and from the brands, but we were too light and fluffy for the homelessness services and all that kind of thing. We didn't marry well, and we sat uncomfortably between the two. Whereas I knew we were exactly where we needed to be.
Like, what would you say that it's the mission of the running charity? So we know that you work with young people, so that's your audience. But
Mm-hmm.
like, we can make this
Yeah.
question like, what's the problem you're trying to solve? But thinking, let's think more about like, what's the mission of the running charity?
So to go into just start with the first thing to not talk about what's the problem we're trying to solve. We're not trying to solve young people's problems. Our young people are amazing, right? And we don't come at them from what is your deficit. We come at you what is your strength, right? And focusing in on that, I think, is critical to them. So from that perspective, we don't look at deficits and what's your problem. If young people want to help with something they're going through, we'll be there for them, and we'll be there for them exactly how they need us to be. Um, when you form kind of corporate and company, you know, our mission. And I think, I never sit comfortably with that. As you can tell, I overtalk. um, but for me, my mission is we work with young people who are going through some really tough times at times, right? And I work every day and I find the motivation to do what I do because what I want young people to do in 5 or 10 years' time, when they're 30, or when they're 25, and when they're in a bit more of a settled place, they can look back at their childhood or their youth, like someone that was from a more fortunate background that had access to what they needed, and say that was a challenging time, but I was cared for, I was respected, and I have memories, and I have good memories, and I have things in my life that were special for me in that period. And I think we can say happier, healthier, or those kind of shortened versions. But I think for me, it's actually I speak to people that have left us 10 years ago now, and you know they've got family, they've got a home, they're happy. Life is difficult, right? Everyone's dealing with life, but they look back and go, "Oh, I remember when we did X, Y, Z. That was amazing. You remember when we did this? I couldn't believe when I crossed that finish line. I knew then that was that moment for me, right?" So, for me, it's about how do I provide people that have often been forgotten about, that often seem by the wider society that they don't deserve special things, that they get those special things. Um, and at the heart of special is community, in my opinion.
You mentioned already that like running has changed. So running is different than when you started, like 12 years ago. Like running is more like it's a trend.
Mm-hmm.
More runners. We have more these
Yeah.
big races. Um, and I was just curious to know how have you kept the heart of the project intact, even as running, or let's say the world in general, in terms of branding, in terms of, for example, how people look at the mental health space. So this changed in how have you kept the heart of the project? And for example, we see more running crews showing up right now. We have already projects with the name Run Club Haters. Uh, so people are starting to say, like, does this make sense in the sport of running? Again, running is looking more to like to this commercial trends.
Mhm. Okay, yeah. So first of all, uh, it's a wonderful thing more people are running, right? It's a wonderful thing people are running, and it's important to ensure, like we do with our young people, is that it's non-judgmental, man. Like if you're running and you find home one, one running club or one running crew or on your own, that is a wonderful thing, right? Uh, so I'm not one to say like actually there shouldn't be this all these organisations starting, and I think you can become really protectionist over it, right? And there's protectionism everywhere. From like a charity point of view, right? We're the only one that was ever really doing this, and I've spoken to different organisations. They go, "Oh, would love to work with you. Would love to do this, this, and that." You tell them what you do, how we do it, and then you don't hear from them, and then suddenly they've gone and secured funding to do their own thing, right? So, you know, so, you, but that's not a bad thing, really, right? It's one of those things that actually is running becoming more accessible to people, yes, and but I think it's always about checking ourselves, right? And just because it's wider, is it engaging the people that don't find a home in it?
Yeah.
And you see loads of different run crews that actually are really dealing with different niche and specific things and societal issues, and that's a good thing, right? That's that people need to find their crew, man, and they need to find their home, right? And we're not the answer to everyone. We really deal with young people who are going through the most complex time, and it ain't just running with us, right? Housing, legal, mental health support, counselling, therapy. Our service wraps around young people, right? So we're not for everyone, and good we shouldn't be,
Yeah.
right? So I don't nimblism about like lots of things. What I think there is a responsibility for though is to the wider culture and community about um how are we showing up, how are we making sure that we are accessible. And that's great from a bottom up perspective, but the responsibility I always find lies in people that hold the power and money, right? And it's the balance of, you know, the co-opting comment is about taking, actually this is really cool at the moment, we want to monetize it to this. Yes, we do believe in people getting active, but ultimately we're trying to monetize it. My job on a day-to-day basis isn't your job, right? And and my job is focused about our young people every single day. And I think when external powers like brands, like corporates, all these kind of things want a bit of it, they really need to ask themselves why they're getting in it and what is the reasons for it, and are they listening, and are they respecting the cultural heritage of the sport, of the people, um, and where's the power dynamics lie, right? Is it exploitative? And they might not see it as exploitative, but we might get approached to see like, hey, why don't we do this activation where you get to wear our trainers? And it's like, well, that's nice, we could do that, right? But for me, it's actually, I need you to help me change people's lives, right? And if you're only here for the activation and the photo shoot, then it's all good. Like you go do that with someone else that is more geared up to that, and leave us to do it on our own because we've been doing it on our own for 12 years.
Let's say that someone's listening, wherever you are. Hello, and thank you so much for listening to this episode. Um, Works in a brand, and
Mm-hmm.
somehow they like the mission and of the running charity. They want to some like partner or support or donate,
Mhm.
what's the first thing you think they need to understand before they reach out?
Big question. Um,
Or
I think it goes. First of all, it goes back to intentions. So what I said about community, not commodity, community, not audience, yeah, or reach, right? So I think that needs to be at the heart of it, right? So that's your first steps, and I think most organisations pass that first step. I have a bit of a litmus test, right? And we've tended to do this with. So one of the things I do with politicians, we've had politicians that want to run with us, right? Is we go, okay, you can come, but you can't bring a camera crew, and then you see how many people, right, don't want to actually do it for the right reasons, right? We've had people go, oh no, we want the camera crew, and you go, okay, you can bring a camera crew, but you can have to do an open Q&A with our young people that we film around what you're doing around the issues that our young people face, and then they don't do it either. So for me, we have a few litmus tests in the organisation to find out people's values. Um, but in terms of brands, I think, you know, from us, what you'll get is authenticity, right? And I think we have to protect the people that we serve, and uh, uh, and and protect them because there is a level of uh, uh, we need to avoid
can I
exploitation and essentially poverty porn.
let me ask you a different question. Like,
Yeah.
what's something you wish, based on your experience, you wish more brands and marketeers asked before pitching like this collaboration? Or if we flip the question, what would a great partnership look look like for you? And here I'm not talking
Um.
about money. I'm talking about something more meaningful and more long term.
Yeah. I think first of all, long term is a key word there, right? So multiple year commitment to what you're trying to create, and I know that's difficult because in essentially lots of organizations they don't have the long term to think about, they're thinking quarters, right? And it's really challenging. But when you tread into the areas of where we work, people need consistency, right? They've been let down before, our young people, and I've been determined since the start of this organization to do everything I can not to let people down, right? To make sure that when we start a piece of work, we finish a piece of work. And for some young people, that can take 3 months. For some, might take multiple years, right? So people understanding that actually, when you make a commitment to social justice, it can't be um, an activation. It has to be over the long term, and you have to build meaningful relationships with people. Then I'd ask people to ask the question more of how can we help you, right? And then also be honest about the reasons they are being involved. And that could be, listen, we want to show our values as an organization. We really do care about these things and we want to talk about that. Right. And that's a completely legitimate thing to do. But then we go, okay, well, let's work on that to ensure that it's empowering, that it's not exploitative, that it's actually something that really resonates, because I think that's how you make great, powerful content anyway. Right. That, I don't post much, and my social media is, I think my last Instagram post was multiple years ago. Um, right. So I'm not one for saying much externally, right? So I think it's, for me, it's about, if you've got something to say, let's say it. Let's get it out and let's have a truthful conversation about things. And I'm here to help people. And if you're here to join that ride as well, let's do that, right? And I also feel it's about reframing it. One of the things that we are amazing at as a charity is helping people transform their mental health. we uh, we drive a lot of hard evidence around it internally, and we've got incredible transformations, both kind of from people's stories, but actually hard data about that change. We are we are significantly impactful, and we can tell those stories. But it's about actually helping us reach more people and engage more young people that need help, and that comes from longer term support.
Do you have do you have at the moment uh, partnerships with brands, or you're just
Most because no, we don't have any real particular brand relationships. Um, we've had them in the past. Some of them have worked better than others. Um, you know, I think all of them were genuine, which is great. Um, sometimes we didn't align on certain things. Sometimes you get caught in the traps of businesses growing and all that kind of thing. But largely, we're a kind of grant funded and individual funded organization. And that's because we actually can evidence and prove the transformations that young people go on
yeah?
with our work. We are, I'm biased, but pound for pound, I think we're the most impactful sports or running organization out there. Um, for every £1 that goes into this charity, we deliver nearly £10 back to society. Um, you know, we are we're, we're not like a we are a meaningful service to people rather than a club. When there's the ethos of the
Yeah,
club
yeah,
and
sure,
community about
sure.
it, but we are a service to people to help them build the foundations of their life, and we prove that for the last 12 years.
Before going to one or two questions that I'd like to hear from you just to close the conversation, is there you can either go with data or with a story. Is there a story that makes makes you feel like chills or
Um,
when we talk about
listen,
one?
there's so many stories that we could go into. Like we're doing this bit where we're doing some storytelling stuff at the moment with our young people, and every single one you go, that could be a movie, man. It's incredible. Or so yes. Listen, I'll go back to I mentioned the young person earlier. That was the big thing for me to push it to a charity, but my colleague over the last 10 to 12 years, apart from we've been very fortunate, but my colleague Claude, like, Claude's an amazing individual. I started working with him when he was and like Claude shares his story in quite naturally and he's out there. So I'm not giving any information that he's not told a few times and that he's okay with me saying it. But like Claude came to this country as a young boy from the Rwandan genocide, went to university, and like a lot of young people, found it a real struggle, dropped out, and then became homeless. These things happen, and like support networks around people sometimes is the defining moment of whether you're going to experience homelessness or not, right? And at that time, Claude was in a really difficult place. I was working with him at a homelessness day centre, and Claude was at a place where it looked like every day when I saw him was carrying the world on his shoulders. And you know, Claude is his own man, and he's led his life and his transformation. It's I'm proud to have played a role in that, but he's done it. It's like running. It's his steps in front of the other. Um, but Claude went through that 8 months rough sleeping, found running, and it just switched a switch in his head about how do I take the practices of every day of going out there and seeing these tangible rewards where I'm setting myself goals with Alex and James around my goal setting, my life, and how do I approach that to the wider section of our work. And by the time Claude left us, he had two jobs, he was housed, brilliant, wonderful. But he was our second full time employee a month after I joined. Claude's still with us now, and for the last 10 years, he has been transforming the lives of young people with, you know, with personally biased, not the credit he deserves. um, uh, and he, like he ran the London Marathon, and he he was awarded the Spirit of London Award by the London Marathon. It was their first ever one. It was like, I think it was like one of the 26 most inspiring people that really represented what the London Marathon is. And we had two of those 26, by the way. And we were just able to, Claude was able to transform his life. And I consider it a privilege to work with him every single day. And to see him now in a lovely relationship in a home that's his and in a job he loves doing, that fills me with chills and strips it back to the heart of what we do, is be able to see him spread his love of running and his care for people to an everyday thing. We've got like 2/3 of our London team are graduates of our program. Right, so we promote our young people from the program, and they work for us now. So, I'm bigging up Claude, but there's others. Seeing the team support young people with the duty of care that I feel they deserve goes back to we not earning the right to hear their story. We we're there for them, thick and thin, to try and do everything we can to help them.
One last question, my friend. Like, what what gives you what gives you hope right now? Like, in your community, in the work you do, what gives you hope?
I think what gives me hope is both seeing with my eyes and seeing with the evidence how our approach helps transform and empowers people to live a life that sometimes when they first joined us, they felt was unobtainable. Right. So we do that on a micro scale. We're still a small organization in the grand scheme of things. And if you look outside the world, you see the what's going on across the world. It's really depressing, right? The rise of right wing extremism, the genocides, the absolute horrific things people are going through the world. It's easy to lose hope. And I try and bring it right back to kind of a small level of what our young people go through. Actually, they can lose hope with the structures and systems of what's out there. And I think as individuals, when you're bombarded with this wealth of grief, you can lose sight of hope and actually your commitment and your control of the things that you can control to make the world a better place. So it's about bringing it back down to, for me, is why do the young people come out for a run with us? Why do they take one step in front of the other when the odds seem really insurmountable? And that's because they're earning the right to change one small step in their life. And when you get to a more settled position, none of us are always settled. Like, life's always difficult. But when you get to that stage where you don't have to think immediately about your individual circumstances and you can spread that love and that commitment to others, that's your duty within society to build that community. One, in our case, run at a time. But, what, let's go further, one system at a time, one country at a time, let, you have to have a vested stake in changing this world for the better. And what gives me that inspiration is seeing those micro steps that young people take to improve their circumstances, but at the same time showing up for the young people, other young people in the group, and encouraging them. It's the heart of it. It's small gestures, but they're the things that they can control right now, and control the controllables, and keep moving forwards and try and make things better.
If people want to learn more about the running charity, what's the best place for them to?
You can go onto our website, those kind of things, or our socials. You can do that, but you can always say, drop us an email. We can always have a conversation. Those things. So go onto our website. There's multiple kind of contact options. You can go in there, and most of it links back to my email address, so it pings up all the time. So yeah, reach out, man. I think that's how connections start. That's how movements start. That's how change starts. So reaching out and saying, "Listen, I don't know how I can help right now, but I'd like to," and then you can form a conversation.
Alex, just like I've mentioned in the beginning of this conversation, I knew that this would be a good one, but I didn't expect it to hit in some parts very deep. I would say that again to the ones that are listening, if you work in community, even in brands, especially in youth work, or just care about doing work that actually matters, I really feel that this episode is the right one for you. And if you think that somehow this episode, this conversation, the experience from Alex moved you in a way, um, send it to someone. Alex, once again, like just looking back to our point A when we connected on LinkedIn to the conversation that we had today, I'm super grateful for your time and
And you,
so
man.
grateful that you shared your experience with us. If somehow, me personally, if I can help you, take into account that you just mentioned that the best ways to start the conversation, here we have. If somehow you believe that I can help you even from afar, please let me know. I'm really looking forward to keep in touch. And again, thank you so much for
Amazing,
your
sir.
time.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for yours.
Thank you.